And of course, South Park is well known for being nominated
for Best Song, Blame Canada.
Matt's not.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you remember that.
tripping on acid
A friend of ours had sugar cubes with LSD.
at the Oscars.
It's so crazy now to think, like, just
So nuts.
Wearing, what was it, J-Lo's and someone else's dress.
It was Gwyneth Paltrow's dress that she won Best Actress for Shakespeare in Love and J-Lo's green.
But then wasn't the other thing that they agreed on?
Nothing about the
No matter
dresses.
what they
so
ask
everyone
us,
would go,
don't say
guys,
anything.
what about the dresses? Why the dresses?
Whenever they ask us a question, just say how it's a magical evening.
It's just such a magical evening, and everyone looks so spectacular. You know, we just wanted to be a part of it
It's
all.
a night of magic.
Such a magical
It's
night.
a magical evening with all the stars here. It's a magical night.
coming down, and you're having to now sit through the Oscars, which f***ing suck.
But we don't have any friends anymore. I wonder why.
This is like episode 40 or something like that, 41.
That's insane. I guess I've lost count.
I know, me too.
We should be celebrating for our 50th episode.
Our 100th, our 1 year is.
Oh
we
yeah,
say-
this is technically like our 1 year.
Yeah, so we can say something
So
about
we
that.
might as well something about that. Okay.
Okay, after you.
All right. Hey everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Back to the Podcast with your host Justin Neal, and I'm Chris Lawler. And of course, it's been 1 year since we started this venture. I'm excited to be celebrating that with you, man. And here we are, man. I don't think this is usable.
That's okay. You can start it over.
It's like, this is not good.
It's one to grow on.
All right.
Come on. You could do it, buddy.
I think so. And 3,
Yeah, we're fine.
2, 1. So, let's see. I'm in like my own head now.
That's going in.
It started off pretty okay, but then I lost it. I shouldn't just jump into the year anniversary.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Podcast with your host, Chris Lawler, and I am Justin Neal.
Yeah.
We started 1 year ago.
Oh, well, you don't have to curse with it.
We started 1 year ago. Can you believe it?
I can't believe we've been at this for 1 year, but it's been a dream come true because this is something that I wanted to do for 10 years prior. And I was just looking for somebody to sit down and do this with me. And here you are, and complete strangers from that have never met in person.
We
have
still
been able to do
haven't
this.
met.
We still have not even met.
And yet we're in our like early 40th episode, something like that. We're in our 40s now.
That's incredible. Not to mention all the other fun stuff we've been making as well on the side.
Absolutely. This has been a great year.
Mm-hmm.
This has been one of the best years in terms of just, I've enjoyed this so much. This is one of my favorite things I've ever worked on.
It's been fun to carve out our own little corner on the internet.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And the community is growing as well.
It is.
If you've been loving it and enjoying it, I mean, we might as well take the time to just say thank you to everyone that has been
Thank you.
our early adopters and been enjoying the show.
And commenting, it's been great.
The positive and the negative, but it's been way more positive than negative. And that
It is.
I think is a real tribute to our positivity and the fact that we're not necessarily here to hate on filmmaking. Doesn't mean that we don't have things that we dislike, but I'm here to, celebrate filmmaking.
We're here to talk about what we do like more than what we don't like.
That actually leads into what our topic is for today as well. I was watching Spaceballs recently. I was in the kitchen making some dinner. I was repeating every single line of dialogue. And I told my wife, I was like, are you enjoying this? With me saying almost every piece of dialogue that's in this movie.
No one does.
And she was like, not really. And I was like, man, I could watch this movie over and over again. And that's when I texted you and I was like, what other movies could you watch over and over again on repeat ad nauseum?
Wait, real quick though. It's so funny that you mentioned about repeating the dialogue and her not enjoying it so much because that is me to a T. I was that kid
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
I had to willfully learn how to not do that in other company
Yeah.
so that I don't bother everyone. But I was that kid growing up who could repeat every line as it was happening. And everyone's like, Justin, shut up. We just want to
Yeah.
watch the movie.
I was surprised how many movies I have memorized.
I've got quite a few.
That's what inspired this. But of course, before we ever seem to dive into anything, I always want to catch up and talk about what's new, what we've been watching. So didn't you get a chance to step out to the theater? I'm jealous. And you got to see some new stuff.
Ooh, I got to see one new thing,
Okay.
and I'm really excited about that. I got to see Alex Garland's new movie, Civil War.
Yeah, I'm super upset I haven't seen that one yet. So this one's obviously super divisive. Critics are divisive on it, obviously, and the audience is divided on it. How are you landing, or where are you in this? Is this just some overhyped tripe that's trying to jam some kind of like dialogue down someone's throat? Or is this a great piece that is supposed to be opening up conversation about something?
It's kind of neither.
Okay,
so,
great.
So I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what this movie actually is because unless you've seen it, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's one of those that like what it's being portrayed as
It got judged before.
isn't
Yeah.
exactly what the movie is. So first off, I want to say I loved it.
Yeah.
But I think anyone who watches this, you're going to have a very personal opinion about it. But I don't think it's preachy at all. In fact, you know what this movie made me think of? When I was sitting in the theater, I kept thinking, this is what Children of Men was. This is Children of Men now. This is what that movie is, because it's a road trip movie. It's a journey, and you're going from point A to point B through hostile conflict territory, and you're encountering conflict along the way. And then you move on to the next thing. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is it's really a passing the baton movie between war photographers.
Okay.
That's what it is. And I think Kirsten Dunst was so good in this movie, but not because it's, Marie Antoinette, but because she just carries the weight
Oh, yeah.
of her character so fully. And you get glimpses of what this character has seen because she is a conflict photographer. And so you get snapshots of her in these war zones taking photos. And it's not easy. It's not anything new. It's not anything you haven't seen before, but that doesn't make it any easier. It's tragic. And whenever she's on screen, you just feel the weight.
Listen to you sell that.
And then there's the younger woman who wants to be her. And they pick her up at the beginning. And the movie as an arc is a passing of the baton from one generation to the next generation of war photographers, conflict photographers. So it's really a journalism movie. You know what I mean? It's with journalists on this adventure from point A to point B. So that's really what this is about. And the other thing, when you talk about, the dialogue of what it's saying, it's being preachy or whatever, what's funny? I thought this isn't actually a warning to the citizens of the United States from a British person. This is a warning to a potential president who doesn't want to leave office after his second term. That's what the movie is really about. It's about someone who doesn't want to go and they're being deposed.
Okay.
But that's not a warning to the people other than like, do you want to see this in a shopping mall? Of course not. Do you want to see downed helicopters and tanks and going down Pennsylvania Avenue? Of course you don't. But if someone doesn't want to go, you got to go. That's really what it's about.
And I mean, really, this is just like them holding up a mirror to what has happened in other countries and just basing it in the US.
There are similarities between conflict zones and how these things play out. So if you really just study it and you take those, like, these are commonalities of things that happen in these situations. Now let's just set it here where potentially you have some makings for a conflict zone and just saying like, well, what happens if someone doesn't leave?
I'm excited.
It's kind of not as divisive as you think it is, you know what I mean? Because that's not really what it's about. But anyway, I saw exactly what Alex Garland was going for with it.
I'm glad you were able to go into it with that open mind. Yeah.
And I have a soft spot for journalists. So to me, like, it totally played.
Okay.
And I felt like I did, though, with Children of Men. I go back to that.
Yeah, I know you like that
it's
one.
It's really meaningful, but it's heavy, you know?
That one is super heavy, though.
So what have you been watching? Because that was the big one for me.
So, guys, the TV show finally dropped. I was absolutely astonished because they moved it up a day earlier. And I think I was dealing with a client and we were talking and just kind of like BSing a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I have to go because you are keeping me away from watching Fallout right now.
I got to go.
We gotta go!
Then I had to explain what Fallout was and why I was so excited. But I was like, no, seriously, I have to go and watch it. So I was only able to watch like the first 2 episodes and then we were able to binge it a little later that week. But it was amazing. I've been a game fanatic since I was a kid, and Fallout fell in my lap when I don't even remember how old I was, but it was like Fallout 2. Started learning about it then. And then, of course, when 3 came out, we all became fanatics. I am replaying Fallout 3 right now because of the show. I was like, immediately, I have to go back and revisit the game. But the show is amazing, man.
I wonder how many other people are thinking that too and are doing the same thing, replaying it.
Oh, no, actually, they've been reporting on it. Steam players count is way up. Fallout 76 is getting more and more players right now because people are wanting to explore the world, and Fallout 76 is like the latest game.
Okay.
Although I don't play that one, that's an online game. But Fallout 4 player count on Steam has apparently gone up like 76%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, the show was amazing. Obviously, it's well acted, it's well crafted. It feels like it fits right into the universe. A lot of people have been a little skeptical about some of the canon events, but that's only to us like hardcore gamers. So I can't wait for you to check it out and give me a report on like what you think of it as just a viewer of the show.
For you, it is literally the next thing on my list to watch that is TV related.
Yeah, man. So are you ready to jump on in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Spaceballs was on the other day, and I think the wife just threw it on in the background. She loves Mel Brooks movies, Men in Tights and Spaceballs for her. And now I've introduced you to Young Frankenstein, but Spaceballs has been around since my childhood. I grew up and was able to understand even more of the comments and more mature themes. Not that there's that many in there, right?
More like immature themes.
Yeah. And then the fact that it's parodying one of the most beloved, trilogies of all time, not too short after, they had wrapped filming all those original 3 films.
That's what I liked about Spaceballs. It's probably my favorite of the Mel Brooks movies, to be honest. I didn't like Men in Tights. It really wasn't actually, just in general, that isn't my type of humor.
You don't like Men in Tights. Wow.
But occasionally one really sticks with me, and that was one of them because I was a Star Wars fan. So I liked the spoof of that. But also, like, Bill Pullman's good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, even though he's being ridiculous, like, he's still, like, he's a good actor, so he carries it. And, of course, John Candy, holy I knew who John Candy was, so I knew who these people were.
And Rick Moranis.
And Rick Moranis from Don't Tell Mom That... Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
What?
Same time period.
What?
But anyway, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I knew Rick Moranis from that.
I think I knew Rick before that as well. I think I had seen him on SCTV. I think I knew those, like, the Canadian brothers and stuff.
Okay.
I'm telling you, sketch comedy, late night TV was a thing in my house.
Okay.
I was introduced to SNL very young.
Way younger than I was.
We used to stay up late and watch Letterman and stuff like that as a family.
See, I snuck and stayed awake at night and watched those by myself.
I didn't have to do that.
Maybe not SNL, but like Letterman or Howard Stern.
Okay, yeah.
That was someone in like middle school, especially. I would stay up and like listen to late night radio because it goes back to that pump up the volume type thing that I mentioned long ago, that late night
secretive with it.
pirate radio.
Yeah, you like that stuff.
Well, and I grew up in such a conservative area that no one talked like that. No one talked real. Everyone talked in code.
Things were very lax in my household. So.
No, just my area in general.
Oh, really?
It was the suburbs of Atlanta, but it was Georgia. God, guns, and football.
Okay.
And not in that order.
I mean, I grew up in the South too. It is what it is.
No, but what I mean is that like I was in an environment where all of this was frowned upon, so I had to do all of this in secret. Is my point.
That's a shame. Well, so you like Spaceballs more than any other Mel Brooks movie?
Probably.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that for sure.
What's your favorite Mel Brooks movie?
It's High Anxiety, man, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's High Anxiety. I grew up loving Alfred Hitchcock movies. And so to have someone that perfectly parodied Alfred Hitchcock movies was so amazing to me.
Okay.
And High Anxiety has some incredibly good jokes.
Okay, well, you're going to have to tell me what those are because I don't know what to look for.
Madeline, what? Have you never seen High Anxiety?
No.
Wow, man, that's a shame.
Like I said, Mel Brooks isn't...
Is not your thing?
Like Spaceballs gets through the radar, but it's not my thing. And that's okay. I just mean that like, just to give you some context of why I haven't seen it, it was like, yeah, but that really wasn't my thing at that time.
Blazing Saddles wasn't your thing either?
No.
Wow, okay.
It's just not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like humor is very subjective.
I get you.
But if I rewatched them now, it could be different. I'm just saying at that time, that is my memory.
I think as a filmmaker, you might really appreciate High Anxiety.
Probably.
And the parodying that's going on in there.
I got a parody on my list.
But don't get me wrong, like after, Men in Tights, it was kind of downhill for him anyway. Like Dracula Dead and Loving It didn't really see the success that it needed to.
Shoot Me Now.
He lost a lot of money on that one.
Oh, God.
But he did Producers again, which was really funny. I liked the remake of the Producers.
Didn't it use Nathan Lane and
Matthew Broderick and
Yeah,
Will
yeah.
Ferrell. And but anyway, yeah, Spaceballs, like I said, was just one of those things that
Okay.
I could throw on. It came out in 87, so it's been around my entire life, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So it just felt like something that was always within reach. And I was always like, hey, let's watch the thing that makes fun of that Star Wars trilogy. I was so young at the time, I didn't really know much about Mel Brooks. So Spaceballs was just Spaceballs, right?
Yeah.
And so many great moments in there. Of course, I die laughing every time.
You thought you could outwit the Imperious forces?
When he catches the stunt doubles.
You've captured their stunt doubles! Search the area! Find them!
And that's like the dumbest joke in the movie. And I don't know why that's so funny to me.
Finding your favorite dumb joke in Spaceballs is like looking for a needle in a stack of needles.
There's so many good one-liners in that movie, right?
Like, how do you differentiate?
Yeah, but it was great to know George Lucas gave his like consent, and obviously the one note he gave him, which is pretty well known. I don't know if you know this fact, but he said you can't make any merchandise because I don't want people buying Spaceball stuff thinking they're getting Star Wars stuff.
I didn't know that.
And that's why he's got that huge joke about merchandise.
What is this place? What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
In the movie anyway.
Merchandising! Where the real money from the movie is made.
That's great.
Spaceballs the t-shirt. Spaceballs the coloring book. Spaceballs the lunchbox. Spaceballs the breakfast cereal. Spaceballs the flamethrower. The kids love this one.
I'm adding that to the list.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of trivia.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that one. No, man, you added that to the list.
Yeah, I thought I was bringing something pretty well known.
It could be pretty well known, but I didn't know that. So.
You didn't know that. That's great.
Right on.
And then, of course, when they're in the desert, this was a cool one I didn't actually know.
We ain't found.
Exactly. But he's got the huge helmet on, that safari helmet that they made for him.
Oh, right.
And the way that they made the cars hover was just use of mirrors, just like they did in the Star Wars movies to make the hovercraft effect.
Oh, okay.
I think we were talking about it one time, but I love that when I finally got it on widescreen for the first time, there's that moment where the camera pans in and hits Lord Helmet in the face and he falls over, which is so comical. But I noticed that the sergeant is right on the side. The Colonel Sanders guy is right on the side. And he like notices the camera and backs out of frame. And I was like, I've never seen that before.
Lone Star!
I loved when you told me that because I have, stories like that too of when I finally saw it in Letterboxd. I was like, you mean that was part of the frame this whole time? And that gag would have been so much funnier if we'd seen him recognize the camera and move out of the way for it to hit Rick Moranis. Like,
it's
that
so good.
Sells it even more. So anyway, I'm glad you told me that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many good moments in that movie. I mean, it still holds up. It's still really funny to me. Like I said, I was just repeating all the lines of dialogue because it obviously holds
it's
a
very
special
quotable.
place. And that's what spawned it all. So there we go. Just to kick things off. So what came to mind then when you started making your list?
Well, actually, I'm just going to go off the parody. Okay. And one of my movies is a parody, and that is Trey Parker and Matt Stone's Team America World Police.
Hell yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I screwed that up. Sorry.
So I saw that movie.
I didn't realize I was supposed to have a scripted moment there.
Yeah, that was not planned.
No.
I saw that in the theater the first time I ever visited New York City.
Oh, cool.
And it was to visit a friend of mine who was in school at Columbia University. And this was in October of 2004. And for any baseball fans out there, you'll remember that was the year that the Boston Red Sox won the World Series.
Oh, wow. God, that long ago now.
They broke the curse.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
Now, before they won the World Series, what they won was the pennant.
It feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Against the Yankees. And they were down 3-0. And they came back and won the next 4 games to beat the Yankees to go to the World Series. And that was a big deal.
What does this have to do with World America?
So I was in New York City at a bar visiting my friend, and I am not a Yankees fan. And so I'm hanging out with the Red Sox fans.
Ghostbusters.
And we start talking to the Yankees fans until we are asked to leave the bar because the Yankees fans were about to like take us out back and beat the shit out of us. So we left the bar and it hit me. Oh my God, Team America came out this weekend. We got to go see it.
There we go. Now we've got to the connection.
So we went from the bar to the movie.
I was like, are we just on some weird rant right now, Justin?
And when that movie started, I started laughing. And I did not stop laughing until the credits rolled on that movie.
I love that one, yeah.
I think that movie is absolutely brilliant.
I think I went to the theater and saw that with my father. That was a very awkward movie, but he's got a sixth sense of humor, so we went and enjoyed it.
It wouldn't be that awkward.
The dolls have that sex scene.
I promise I will never die.
But what's so cool about Team America is it actually works as a spoof of Jerry Bruckheimer action films.
It totally does, yes.
And they got the cinematographer from The Matrix to shoot it. So they got a legit action cinematographer.
They had a talented crew make that movie.
It's actually a real pain in the ass to make. There's a lot of craft that goes into that movie that might get dismissed because of the immature spoof nature of the humor, but like so much effort went into make these really bad jokes.
When was the last time someone tried to make some miniatures with marionettes as well? Like they brought back something so ridiculous.
Within a week, they were sitting there going, why did we decide to do this? Because I know when they were coming up with the idea, they thought it was hilarious. They're like,
really
do it. We'll make fun of Armageddon with marionettes, with puppets. It'll be hilarious. And then you start doing it and you're like, this looks bad. How do we make it look good? And it takes so much effort to actually pull off the gag that you're trying to pull off that like by the end of it, you're like, was this even worth it? Was this joke even worth all the effort took to make it play?
I love that movie. You know, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sad to say I don't own that one, so I haven't been able to see that movie in a long time.
I love that movie.
But I did see it in the theater.
And we all know I'm a big Trey Matt fan.
We are. And I should be a bigger fan to own those things.
So that is a movie. It is so quotable. You can quote it if you know it from start to finish. You know what I mean? It just goes from one quotable line to another quotable line to another. Like Spaceballs. Spaceballs does that too.
It really does. Like there's just, you're waiting for the next punchline and then the next punchline, which then in turn is the next quotable little line. Yes.
Exactly. Setup, payoff, setup, payoff, setup, payoff.
And it's a perfect 96 minutes of film. Spaceballs is.
Oh, right.
And so that it doesn't like drag on. There's no like real lull in it.
Not really.
Here's the next like setup. Here's the next punchline.
Yeah, it's paced slow because of its time period, but they go straight to the gag. It's usually, like you said, it is setup, payoff, setup, payoff, setup, payoff. Well, Mel Brooks, I'll give him that. You know what I mean? Like, dude's a comedian. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I might not think all his jokes are funny, but dude knows how to tell a joke.
Dude.
For his time.
You hearing that, dude?
Dude, Mel Brooks.
Dude. My homie.
I say that with loving respect.
That's great.
Anyway, so Team America, does that make you think of anything? Do you want to?
I've got another obscure comedy then.
Oh, okay.
And it's also a musical. So I guess, yeah, we are making the connection. But another one that I grew up watching over and over again because I loved musicals, right? As a kid, we love melodic things, repetition and stuff. So musicals were kind of a big deal, right? And obviously that's why Disney does what they do with the musicals and their animated movies. But Little Shop of Horrors was this obscure dark comedy thing that I just loved. I don't know why more people around me weren't as into it as me, but I was like,
it's a cult movie.
Rick Moranis and Bill Murray and Steve Martin, obviously directed by Frank Oz, who's got this lovable sense of humor and quirky style for his directing.
Who's Yoda?
And isn't he Fozzie Bear as well, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, he was with Jim Henson. He was part of that crew. So he's a bunch of different things.
And so Jim Henson's son worked on this movie as well.
Oh, okay.
Because they were using that kind of puppetry for Audrey too.
Okay.
So they were bringing in that. I mean, there was, who else would you bring in to do that? But someone that's been, perfecting the craft for like 20 years at that point or however long.
I like Frank Oz. I like interviews with Frank Oz. He seems like an interesting cat.
But he's obviously got some weird sense of humor because he's done some obscure, dark kind of comedies too.
Well, and Jim Henson, they did some weird
But Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is one of his other ones too that I love. And then of course I grew up with Muppets Take Manhattan.
Me too.
And that was his connection. What About Bob was his as well, which is one of our household favorites.
Oh, right. I forgot.
This one, obviously, then you're just on from one musical scene to the next, and the puppet's amazing. I learned that apparently Eddie Murphy was up for doing the voiceover for the Audrey 2. And I was like, I could so see that.
Yeah, me too.
Then, of course, now we've seen it, but they had that original darker ending. Have you seen that on the Blu-ray edition?
No, I haven't. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. I can't say I was of that cult, but I respect it. You know what I mean? And I had plenty of people. It was like Rocky Horror. I never really became a Rocky Horror person, but I knew lots of people, and I'm cool with it. You know what I mean?
I know lots of Rocky Horror fans, but that was never my ilk either. Yeah.
Like I said, I know lots of people who like that movie. So it's definitely like an established, like, respect.
In musicals, right?
I do like musicals.
If you find a good musical.
I have another musical on here.
Oh, do you really? Should we just segue into that one then?
Well, it's going to be my Trey Parker Matt Stone twofer, and my musical would be South Park, Bigger, Longer, and
Bigger,
Uncut.
Longer, Uncut. Okay. Yeah, we did just watch that again recently, and it was a good one.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go too deep into it, but when we're talking about musicals and Trey and Matt, I could just tack that one on. Like, that totally counts as a movie that I can quote every line for and sing all the songs too.
And sing all the songs, yeah.
And of course, South Park is well known for, being nominated.
For best song, Blame Canada. Matt's not. Yes. I'm not.
Trey got nominated for Blame Canada. And so I think I went as your date.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you remember that.
While Trey and Matt were in dresses.
Wouldn't it be funny if I shaved my legs and dressed up in a fancy dress and tried to pass myself off as some weird looking Eastern European model or something?
Tripping on acid.
A friend of ours had sugar cubes with LSD.
At the Oscars.
That's so crazy now to think. Like, just
So nuts.
the whole idea you would go, I mean, even to just go, okay, you're going to go to the Oscars, take acid and go to the Oscars. I'd be like, no, dude, I'm not doing that because I don't know what I'm going to end up doing. That'd even be too scary.
If you look at him, you could see it, especially Trey when he does his, like, at one point he goes like,
What? Come on.
Wearing, what was it, J-Lo's and someone else's dress?
it was Gwyneth Paltrow's dress that she won Best Actress for Shakespeare in Love, and J-Lo's green. Oh my God, with the wig too.
But then wasn't the other thing that they agreed on?
Nothing about the
No matter
dresses.
what they
so
ask
everyone
us,
would go,
don't say
guys,
anything.
what about the dresses? Why the dresses?
Whenever they ask us a question, just say how it's a magical evening.
Such a magical night.
Magical night tonight. Just all the stars are out.
Is that why you're in the dress? It's just such a magical evening, and everyone looks so spectacular. We just wanted to be a part of it all. It's a night of magic.
Such a magical night.
Such a magical night.
It's a magical evening with all the stars here. It's a magical night.
I also remember actually then having to sit there in the actual Oscars, and you're coming down off the acid. Coming down, and you're having to now sit through the Oscars, which fucking suck.
But we don't have any friends anymore. I wonder why.
So does that make you think of anything, South Park?
Well, no, I don't have any more musicals or anything, but obviously some great rewatchable things are on my list.
Yeah, that's fine.
And, we call it Back to the Podcast because we're big Back to the Future fans, and obviously that was ringing a bell with us. So I figured we haven't even really talked about it on here. And the trilogy itself is like my favorite trilogy of all time. It's just the most fun kind of adventure movie that you can sit down, and all three of them are very enjoyable and entertaining, all in their own ways, and tell a great, fantastic, overarching story that comes to a very nice end in the third movie. And when I was growing up, that was in existence. Like I was looking up today, the third one was done in 1990.
Yeah, we were still kids.
Yeah, they were able to come out with those pretty much back to back. It was 89 and 90, and the first one came out in 85.
Well, because they shot 2 and 3 at the same time, didn't they?
Yeah, they teased 3 at the end. We were seeing that in the theater, and we were like, movies don't do that.
It's true.
I've never seen that before.
That was wild.
That was incredible.
We didn't realize that they had already.
And then it came out, and it was a humongous hit. I remember being there opening weekend for 2 and 3, 5. Obviously, I was way too young for the first movie.
Yeah.
Grew up with it in the household. So I'm assuming that Back to the Future was there for you.
Yeah, Back to the Future was one of those that I cannot remember a time in my life without Back to the Future.
I agree.
My sister probably feels the same way. Like Back to the Future just exists. Like Star Wars almost.
Exactly.
It was this fully formed thing that has had so much influence on my life over the years. Like everything about that movie is now iconic. At this point, I really just like watching the making of stuff.
I mean, obviously we know the whole thing with Eric Stoltz being swapped out, in the first movie, but then they did some incredibly great practical effects to make it look futuristic in the second one.
I love the second one. It is bonkers.
I don't know why I like the second one as much as I do, but I still love the third one as well.
Okay, and I'm not a hater, but
don't be a hater.
I didn't embrace it as much as the others. It's my least favorite. I mean, but that doesn't sound right. It's the one that I watch the least.
For me, it's hard to even judge. Does that make sense? Because it all fits like a puzzle piece, if you will, into the overarching narrative.
No, I feel you.
It just feels all the same. So
no, it is a full trilogy.
It doesn't feel detached. And I love that they used to be able to make movies like this, because now they're so reliant on having to do so much heavy CG work, and that takes time and that takes effort to do it right. And then of course you have to like figure out how to do it right if you want to capture it in camera. And I think it was just a better time when they were like, well, we have to do everything practically because no one's invented anything that we want to do with a computer yet.
So one of the iconic things for me, because I'm a car nerd, is the DeLorean.
Right?
I don't know how much you know about the actual making of the DeLorean.
I do.
Okay.
Like a lot.
Well, then you know.
What
Okay,
was going on
yeah.
with the creator and the cocaine and the conspiracy that goes behind it all. Yeah.
That car is a hot mess.
Oh yeah, it's not a good one.
You know, the powertrain is crap.
My neighbor has one.
Everything is crap.
There's one in a garage 2 doors down from my house. Yeah.
But I gotta say,
it's broken down.
One passed me the other day on the road.
Oh really? You saw it driving?
And I have to say, that is the coolest car I've ever seen on the road, and I've seen some really cool cars on the road.
It's interesting to look at. Yeah.
And that's the moment I went, okay, my project car is going to be a DeLorean that I'm going to gut and put in like just things that work. I just want it to work. I don't want it to be a sleeper or a supercar, just not a piece of shit.
So do you think that it looks so cool because it looks so cool, or do you think it's so cool because of the coolness factor from the movie?
You know, I think the design.
Really? Okay.
The reason it looks so cool is the reason why it works so well for the movie, and vice versa.
They were definitely not built well, and the guy, I think, was like funneling money was the whole thing, and so
Back to the Future, yeah.
But like you said, it was always there, and we were just looking up dates, the Indiana Jones trilogy.
And that's another one that, especially like Last Crusade, I love Last Crusade.
So do I.
I think the chemistry between
him and Sean Connery
is so good. Even though I love the original Raiders, and actually I like Temple of Doom because it's fun.
I like Temple of Doom a lot.
My wife cannot stand Temple of Doom because Kate Capshaw just screams the whole time.
I don't know.
Whenever I'm like, hey, I'm going to put on Temple of Doom, she's like, is that the one where she screams? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, I'll be somewhere else.
She plays her role is fine, is all I got to say to that.
I get it.
I think the stunt work is great in that movie. It's still a fun Indiana Jones adventure, even though it's darker twist.
They were both going through a dark period in their life, both Lucas and Spielberg. I think they were both going through divorces or had just recently gone through divorces. You know what I mean? Like they were in a dark place, and they were just
sometimes it's fine.
We're just going to make this one dark.
But as a kid,
it was up as a kid.
But the dialogue as a kid around movies was sequels are poison, right?
Oh, right.
We don't want sequels. We don't want them. And I was like, well, there's 3 good trilogies right there.
Yeah.
I always looked to Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Back to the Future.
Those are all super quotable.
Highly rewatchable to me as a kid.
Highly rewatchable.
And once again, having the VHS copies that were not altered, there was no like digital updates to them yet. It was the original films at the time.
It was just 4x3 pan and scan.
Yeah, so those were just staples in the household.
Yeah, me too. Movies that we would watch over and over and over.
I know.
Like literally just get thrown on in the background. And you mentioned one before we came on, which is one of my favorite ones to throw on the background, and that's Clue.
Clue, yes.
And that's one that I don't even have to look at it. If it's playing in the other room, I know exactly what's going on. And not only that, I am quoting along with
Absolutely. Yeah, me too.
It's so clever. It's so witty. It's one of my favorite scripts.
That one came out in 85, so that one obviously was way too early for us to have enjoyed in the theater. So that was one that I watched on repeat.
Tape from TV.
No, not on TV for me. We rented.
Mine was. I was talking about me.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, but we rented it at the Blockbuster all the time. That was one of those things for some reason we didn't own. But every time I would go and have like a little sleepover at my cousin's house,
Ooh, Clue.
That was the movie we would rent, and we'd watch it over and over again.
There's enough that demographic wise and age wise, it's kind of one that kind of can play for everybody a little bit. Maybe not, toddlers, but
yeah, maybe not toddlers, but
those guys.
But
They have bad taste anyway.
Father of two over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Clue is actually on my list, so I'm glad you brought it up as well. But that was directed by Jonathan Lynn, who did My Cousin Vinny and the whole 9 yards as well. I didn't know that.
And it was co-written by Jonathan Landis.
Right, who was going to direct it, but he handed it over to Lynn at the last minute.
Yeah.
I can't remember why, but yeah.
It was a project of his, even though he wasn't directing it. He was a writer and a producer. It was one of his projects, but he had a lot going on at that point. And do you know when the helicopter accident happened? That's when his...
Right. I can't remember what year that was.
What movie was that for?
Wasn't that...
For Twilight Zone?
Twilight Zone, right? That was a scene where they were doing like flashbacks to Vietnam or something like that.
And there was a helicopter accident and there was fatality.
Yep, three people died.
3 people. And
if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 children and a stunt performer were killed. That was scary.
That was... Oh my God, terrible.
Right. And that was one of the most controversial things up until now with the Alec Baldwin thing that's going on.
Right.
That's still seeing trial right now. I think Alec Baldwin's about to go on trial. Not that we're going into depth with that, but just for controversy with death on sets.
But that's what I think of with Jonathan Landis. Like he had done, Animal House and American Werewolf in London. And he was doing these things and was a really super popular director.
And they just made one bad call one day to get a shot.
That is just a terribly unfortunate situation.
It was, yeah. Well, anyway, on the other side of that.
Yeah, moving on to a better note.
Did you know Carrie Fisher was actually going to be Miss Scarlet in this one?
No, but I wish she had.
Carrie Fisher, I think, would have been awesome.
Nothing against the thespian that played Miss Scarlet. I can't think of her name at the moment.
Let's see. I have it right here. It's Leslie Ann Warren stepped in at the last minute.
Leslie Ann Warren, who I think did a fantastic job.
She did a fantastic job. But yeah, Carrie Fisher would have been a very interesting.
She could have slayed in that.
She unfortunately had to go to rehab.
Yeah.
We all know Carrie Fisher's history. So.
When you said that, I was like, what was she in rehab?
Yeah.
Which time?
I'm glad you brought that one up because Clue was on the list. So that's a very fun one.
Love that movie.
Maybe we could shift it because I know you wanted to also talk about things that are highly rewatchable. Now, Clue is one of those that's highly rewatchable because even though they were making a quirky comedy, they still had to keep continuity correct. So even when they start accusing people, well, you weren't with us in the kitchen, you can actually go back and watch those scenes and be like, oh my God, they're not in that scene.
They had to construct all of that.
That's so great that they were able to do that. So when it comes to like rewatchable movies, I figured maybe we take another step to the wild side. I mean, for me, Inception is like way up there. I love rewatching Inception. I like seeing all the little details and the hidden effects, and the storytelling is just, I think, immaculate in that movie. I think it gets stronger every time I see it. How do you feel about Inception? Is that one of your Nolan favorite movie type experiences?
It is probably my favorite Nolan movie. And
is it?
One of the reasons is because of the experience. So my wife and I saw that at the Odeon Theater in London, which is where they have all the premieres and stuff when it's in London.
Oh, you saw all these cool things. Yeah.
So I know it was the summer of 2010 when that came out because we were on our honeymoon.
Nice.
And when I left the theater, I was vibrating like a tuning fork. I was so jazzed.
Don't you love it when movies do that? Yeah.
What was that? That was awesome.
Boom. Right? Yeah.
Mind blown. It was like, that's why we go to the theater. It was one of those types of movies.
Ooh, is that becoming a catchphrase?
It is. That's why we go to the theater.
We're going to get that on the sheeter, and that's why we go to the theater. I love it.
And that's a prime example. And I know other people have issues with it because of some of the, like, maybe holes or contradictions. And I got to tell you,
I just don't care.
I've probably seen that movie 20 times, and I have never watched it to pick it apart. Not once. I've never tried. I never want to.
It's so visually captivating.
I don't try to pick apart movies anyway, because what's the fun in that?
Oh, you're right. But the only thing that I now pick apart,
it's just not fun to me.
Chris's little rant here about Nolan's bullshit that I hate.
Okay, lay it on me.
Here we go. The thing that I hate the most about going back and watching that is I can hear all the dialogue. And it just makes me go, what has been going on with the last few Nolan movies?
Oh, okay.
Where I can't understand or hear a thing. I was like, well, maybe this is just a thing and I haven't noticed it. But every time I go back and watch those movies, it's like, nope, I can hear the dialogue perfectly clear.
No, I can hear it clearly.
Over all of the loud music and action.
It is a mix.
So I don't know what's going on.
It's a choice.
That's it. Chris's little rant is over. I'm back over here on the happy side now. I'm with you. Inception, I mean, obviously I brought it up.
I love Inception.
You know,
I do.
But I could hear everything. And there's a lot of quiet moments.
I like movies with ideas like that.
And it's a great idea.
You know what's really hard to do is to do a movie like that and have every little piece. I don't know. I think people just they pick apart movies because they're bitter that they can't make them themselves.
Maybe. I don't know.
And I'm not like that. And so I
love the joy of filmmaking.
Want to be bitter. I try to find out like, well, why is it like that? Because it might be for something that they didn't have any control over, which we can talk about is unfortunate. But that's what making movies is. It's like a campaign, and you got a whole bunch of people all working together, but people have different motivations, and it's really hard to make something that's just watertight from start to finish, where every little thing and people are like, what, didn't someone say something? Why didn't they think of that? You know, probably someone did, and someone higher up said, I don't care. And that's the way it works.
That sucks.
And that's unfortunate, and I hate that, but I just try to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I try to give the people the benefit of the doubt, actually.
I'm with you 100%.
I bet people came in with good intentions. It's really hard to pull it off. So you know what? That's all I'm saying. That was that's Justin's little rant.
We both ranted, but now, yeah, Inception.
So now we're getting more into like highbrow, high concept stuff. And those are some of my favorite movies that are designed to be rewatched, which would be like Christopher Nolan's The Prestige.
I can't get enough of that.
And David Fincher's Fight Club. I saw that came out in 1999, so that was my junior year of high school. So when we saw that in the theater, it was not a big hit. In fact, it was like kind of a dud.
But I loved it.
Me and my friends saw it in the theater, and we were like, whoa. But movies didn't come out on video right away back then. You had to wait.
You had to wait like 8 months, 9 months.
6 to 9 months. So it was almost a year later when it came out on VHS. And it was the second time that I watched Fight Club.
I'm surprised you had it on VHS.
No.
Because that was a big DVD release. I remember that. So I
maybe it was on DVD.
So it's okay. I'm not trying to like trump your memory.
Because it was the package version. And it looked like a wrapped in like brown wrapping paper with a little, like it was a bomb going to go off. But anyway, it was when I rented it, it absolutely blew my mind. There were so many layers and so many things going on in Fight Club.
It's such a good movie. It's so entertaining. It's so well acted. It's so well crafted. And you're right. There's so many layers and it's captivating. It's just captivating.
I love being able to watch a movie and it totally plays on one level and then you watch it again and there was this whole other level going on at the same time, which doesn't take away from the top one. In fact, it adds to it. You just don't know it until you watch it the second time. And I love that.
And going back to The Prestige, I'm going to say that almost has a similar kind of connotation. There was this one entertainment level where you're watching it the first time and you're like, okay, what's even going on in this story?
You're intrigued. It's a mystery.
There's just layers and little nuances and little things that you see. And then when you actually know the ending, there's so much more enjoyment actually you found in that story. We were kind of debating this with The Sixth Sense. There was some enjoyment on rewatching The Sixth Sense, but I can't rewatch that over and over again. There was almost like the one time watch through with the surprise, and then there was the one time watch through with the knowledge of the ending.
But it doesn't make it more fun. I'm with you. And like, who wants to quote The Sixth Sense anyway?
But with The Prestige, for some reason, it feels like I can enjoy it more knowing the outcome because now I get to watch for more of the craft and more of the little things that they're hiding in there. Yeah.
Well, I think there's more layers than The Sixth Sense.
And Michael Caine's obviously great in it.
You know who I love actually though?
All the acting.
I love Hugh Jackman as the look-alike drunk.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yes.
Magnificent. I love it. Anyway, I'm a big fan of The Prestige. I like that time period too. I'm a big Victorian England, turn of the century.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Chris, he's a sucker for period pieces. Doesn't matter what period it's in. I just really enjoy being taken away to that. And that one definitely feels like we're being whisked away. It's a magical ride about magicians and all this magic and intrigue. And I love how they're showcasing that there's no real magic. It's all a thing, but the movie feels magical in a sense. And of course, setting up the first act, the second act, the third act, there's a lot of like mature storytelling and story structure in there that feels highbrow, but is not going over everyone's head. It's a good balancing act where it's like, no, it's still telling a great narrative that's for audiences everywhere. Nolan loves telling complicated, like storytelling with playing with time and manipulating the viewer's viewpoint.
Yeah, he sets up graphs just to keep it all straight. So that says something. When you have a chart, like on your office desk of like the timeline going backwards and stuff for something like Tenet, you know you're getting complicated.
And I mean, he was doing kind of something similar in Memento.
Well, he likes playing with time. We know that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Well, that's what's cool about cinema in general, or movies, whatever. It's the one art form that can play with time in a way that no other art form can.
I explain this when I tell people, because we both edit. So I always go, it's almost like magic. I just really enjoy that, like, we record all this garbage and then I'm able to turn it into something perfect.
Oh, it's so close to the truth. It's not even funny.
Have I ever told you that I think The Prestige is a perfect film?
I don't know if you've said that.
Have you ever had that discussion?
I don't know if you've said that.
There's only a few movies that I'm like, this is a perfect film.
That's a bold statement.
From beginning to end, I love every frame that's going on. The acting in here is great. The story, the narrative, the characters, everyone feels like they have motive. That's my biggest thing. When characters just do things that feel out of character, like I do not really understand the motivation of why they were doing that, can take me out of it. But The Prestige, man, there's just so much great stuff going on there. Great narrative, great cinematography. Great audio mixing so that I can understand the dialogue. That is great. So we went to some like highbrow stuff there. We kind of just went down a rabbit hole. I kind of ran out of some stuff on my list, but I've got some more honorable mentions and whatnot if you wanted to kind of...
I mean, I got like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love that one. Top Gun. This Is the End. The Burbs. Burbs would be for you.
It's not as rewatchable, but I love that movie. But it's not like...
Okay, what else is on yours?
Like I said, it was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'm gonna leave all this stuff in, by the way.
Groundhog Day. That was really like the last two big ones.
Let's save that. Let's save that for the next one. I think this is a full episode. I think we're good.
Yeah, like I said, Mad Max, and then I was going to talk about the Avengers.
But there's no dialogue in Mad Max. Oh, I guess it's rewatchable.
And I was going to talk about Ghostbusters a little bit, but I mean, all of this can be saved for a totally another like session.
All right, let's do another one. I think that's enough for today. I feel good.
All right, so
I feel much better than when I started.
Then let's just wrap it up. Then I'll find a way to like segue. You want me to just do an outro?
Well, I was going to use all that.
All right, then use all that. I don't care. I
was going to use that discussion.
Then we're on our way out the door for the day. And this has been a lot of fun once again, talking about all of our favorite films.
Yeah.
This was a great trip because it was just, hey man, let's just gush about something. I didn't need to go deep. I didn't need to blow your minds. I didn't need to come out with something super secretive. These are all hopefully movies that you love, but I know that we've got a lot of people watching that are a younger generation. So hopefully some of those older ones maybe inspired you to go and check them out if you've never seen them or heard of them. So
I don't even necessarily think that we're here to educate everyone on, maybe something you didn't know, but to inspire you to maybe go back and rewatch something.
Or rewatch something. Yeah, I love it.
In a different way. Like maybe, I know this happens with you a lot, like you watched something a long time ago and you had a point of view at that time and you kind of kept that as like how you felt about that movie. But over time, you're a lot different now. And if you go back and rewatch it, you might feel completely different about how that movie is.
City Slickers is the prime example of that. Being a kid and just watching it as a comedy, but then now being a 40-year-old man who's gone through those transitions, just like Billy Crystal was struggling with.
Okay.
And to go out and find himself. It's not like I went out and started doing ranching and stuff.
But it means something to you now.
I can understand that midlife crisis type of feel.
You can relate to it.
Absolutely. I want to inspire people that maybe have not heard of some of the older stuff, or maybe even people of our age or generation that haven't revisited some of these movies in a long time.
Go check it out. That's what we want.
I just want to share my love and passion and, the excitement that I get.
Because we rewatch these movies all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we didn't even get to even some of my most favorite ones. So maybe we'll do a second
we're going to have to
episode. We're always keeping things in our back pocket. So
we can go indefinitely.
Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
And of course, if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that button. It really does help. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers.
Almost.
We are climbing fast right now. So join the community, join the conversation, drop things in the comments. What are your favorite movies to rewatch? So that's really it. I think we've got some fun stuff coming up soon. Happy 1 year anniversary, Justin.
Happy anniversary.
For 1 year. I don't know what episode number we're on because I've lost track at this point. But we're going to keep rocking and rolling. I think we're having a great time with this. So
thank you, everyone.
Thanks again for joining me, Justin. I really appreciate your time and
thank you.
Sitting here and talking with me. So
this is great. I feel better.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, buddy. You go take care and go watch some good movies. Okay. I'll check you later.
Yeah. You have a good one.
Chicky leader.
Chicky leader. Who says that?